Chapter 1766 Reflection of the World. Zhang Yi, didn't you contact other regions? For example, ask them to send troops to go with you? Zhu Zheng's question was in vain. He knew the current situation very well, and other regions were simply unable to deal with it. Zhang Yi also understood what he was planning. However, Zhang Yi still asked knowingly, other regions don't have the energy to care about other countries' affairs. Zhu Shuai, do you have any ideas? Zhu Zheng coughed lightly and finally stated his purpose. Other regions are somewhat alienated from us after all, but Jiangnan region is your hometown. Whatever you want to do, I will fully support you. So this time I want my goddaughter to go with you. What do you think? Zhang Yi sneered in his heart. Zhu Zheng's face is really big. He secretly got Zhu Yu without telling him, and during the previous war, he also let Zhu Yu run out to collect heads. This approach caused dissatisfaction among various regions and naturally would not make Zhang Yi happy. As a result, at this time, he was still shameless enough to come to Zhang Yi and ask Zhang Yi to take Zhu Yu to Fremons. It must be said that those who accomplish great things do need to be thick-skinned. Zhang Yi smiled and shook his head. Zhu Shuai, this is not good. Of course, in principle, I don't mind taking Zhu Yu with me to Fremons. But the world is so chaotic now. After I leave Jiangnan district, someone has to be responsible for protecting the safety here. So, let Zhu stay to defend Blizzard City, especially Zhu Shuai. Zhang Yi looked sincere. Zhu Zheng heard that Zhang Yi didn't want to take Zhu Yu with him, so he smiled and said, "Don't worry, although Zhu Yu is not here, we have built a complete defense system. What's more, Deng Shentong is still here. And now, the Wulwan Empire has been defeated, and Barada has been intimidated by your powerful strength. Who dares to come and die?" Zhu Zheng flattered. Zhang Yi laughed. Zhu Shuai, Gao Changkong is not dead yet. Hearing this name, the muscles on Zhu Zheng's face twitched obviously. Zhang Yi supported his chin with both hands, looked into Zhu Zheng's eyes and said, "The last time I met him in the southwest region, most of the people he had taken to Baroda were dead. At that time, I persuaded him, hoping that he could forget his hatred and come back. After all, an Epsilon-level alien is still of great value. But he refused at that time. He didn't say anything to me, but just shook his head." Zhang Yi paused. But Zhu Zheng felt a strong sense of fear in his heart. Silence means that there is no need to talk anymore. It also means that Gao Changkong will never let Zhu Zheng and the group of dignitaries in Blizzard City behind him go. Now, for Gao Changkong, killing Zhu Zheng has become an obsession in his heart. People always need some kind of goal to find the value of their survival. Zhu Zheng laughed dryly. Gao Changkong dares to come back. He knew that Zhang Yi deliberately used Gao Changkong as an excuse and didn't want to take Zhu Yu to Fremons. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. When I was here, he didn't dare. But if I'm not here, I can't say for sure. The older people get, the more afraid they are of death, especially those who are pampered and in high positions. Zhu Zheng didn't dare to gamble. Besides, Zhang Yi's attitude was very clear, and he didn't want to take Zhu Yu with him. After thinking for a while, Zhu Zheng shook his head helplessly. "Zhang Yi, I know about Zhu Yu's affairs. You have complaints about me. But I just hope to make the Jiangnan region better." Zhang Yi rolled his eyes countless times in his heart. At this time, he still came over to speak in an official tone. "Old Zhu, can you believe what you said?" Zhang Yi nodded and said sincerely, "I know, General Zhu. Our goal is to build Huashu country well, make the Jiangnan region more prosperous and strong, and make the world full of love and peace. You and me," he pointed to his chest, then pointed to Zhu Zheng, his eyes firm. "We are in the same boat." Zhu Zheng's expression froze on his face. "Well, your troops are too few. Why don't you take 2 investigation teams with you?" Bailey Chongqing and others had officially joined Zhang Yi's team at this time. Zhang Yi and Zhu Zheng had just exchanged a few words, and Zhu Zheng did not dare to disagree with his request. Zhang Yi said, "No need, I have someone available." Then, "I can only wish you blessings from the gods and prosperity of your military fortune in this operation," Zhu Zheng said with a smile. Zhang Yi nodded and ended the call. Zhu Zheng leaned back on the sofa, his expression gloomy and terrifying. On the sofa to his left, Zhu Yu sat quietly, with no expression on his face, and his long black hair almost fell to the ground, like a large mass of black seaweed. Zhang Yi, this guy. Zhu Zheng murmured Zhang Yi's name. He really loved and hated Zhang Yi. However, what he loved most was the power in his hands. So even though he knew that it would cause a rift between Zhang Yi and him, he had to cultivate Zhu Yu. Zhu. You felt Zhu Zheng's annoyance. She spoke softly, her voice as cold as if it had passed through the vast ice field before it reached people's ears. Father, I don't need Zhang Yi. I can go to Fremon's by myself. Lan Xinqing, who was dressed in a neat military uniform behind Zhu Zheng, also bowed his head and said, Fremon's has also sent us a letter for help. We can bypass Zhang Yi and go to Fremon's on our own. Zhu Zheng glanced at Zhu Yu, and he rubbed his temples hard, only to feel his head hurt more. No, although your current strength has improved by leaps and bounds, it has just crossed the threshold of the Black Chariot. And your combat experience is too lacking. It is too risky to let you go to Fremon's alone. Zhu Yu's strength is very strong. However, personal strength may not be able to determine everything on a complex battlefield. The change in Fremon's is a war between two civilizations, and anything can happen on the battlefield. Is it invincible if the superpower index is high? That's just a joke. Without sufficient logistical supplies and a strong intelligence system, a green hand like Zhu Yu will become a headless fly when he arrives in Fremon's. To put it bluntly, she might even have trouble finding food. So, what if it's a Black Chariot? She'll starve to death without food. Without rich combat experience, she might be killed by the weapons of the Super Era if she falls into the encirclement of the mechanical army. In the previous battle against the Wulwan Empire, she relied entirely on Zhu Zheng's plan and came out to pick up the leaks when the two armies were at their limit. It doesn't mean that she has the ability to stand on her own. Lan Xinqing persuaded, but this is also a great opportunity for you to improve your strength. It would be a pity if you miss it. Zhu Zheng thought for a long time before finally making a decision. Don't worry, no one knows what the situation is like in Fremon's now. Let Zhang Yi and others go first. Wait until the time is right, and then we'll go. Lan Xinqing bowed his head and said, Yes, Marshal Zhu. Zhu Yu sat quietly on the sofa, with no ripples in his eyes, like a beautiful doll. Fremon's asked the world for help, hoping that they could send troops to deal with the mechanical civilization that suddenly appeared. The Pantheon is powerful, but their population is too sparse, and their military strength is far less than that of Huashu and Fremon's. The core forces must be kept in the capital, Karen City, and several major cities. They cannot be easily dispatched, and they cannot solve the abnormalities that appear from time to time across the country. The major countries and international forces are weighing the pros and cons, and many powerful countries and organizations are ready to move. Zhang Yi has decided to take action in 3 days. That night, Zhang Yi fell asleep. The familiar whispers in his ears sounded again. He thought it was the inner demon brought by the Wulwan Empire, but after repelling the invasion of the Wulwan Empire, the whispers did not disappear. But now, he has begun to slowly adapt to the existence of this whisper and regard it as a sound to help him sleep at night. In his dream, he saw an ocean condensed by dots of white light balls. And every time he touched a light ball, he would have a subtle feeling. After waking up, the scenes in the dream were forgotten, but it would bring him a special feeling. Sometimes it is like entering heaven, making him feel relaxed. Sometimes it was like falling into hell, making him sweat profusely. Zhang Yi didn't know what this was, and except for him, no one around him had ever had this feeling. Gradually, he stopped caring. Until the 3rd day, when he was scheduled to leave for Fremon's. Something incredible happened in the whole world that was beyond everyone's imagination. The northern part of Fremon's is located in the Arctic Circle, close to the Arctic Ocean. On the morning of this day, several workers wrapped in tight winter clothes came to the beach, preparing to break the ice as usual and catch some mutant ice fish. They saw the sea level in the distance boiling like boiling water. The fishermen immediately ran away and did not forget to take out their equipment to record the scene in front of them. After the end of the world, people seemed to be numb to this weird world, and they would not be surprised even if they saw something strange. But when they climbed the snow hill next, the scene they saw still made them dumbfounded. The seawater seemed to be split by something. A huge pit sank, and then a huge object slowly rose up. It is impossible to describe it accurately. Its color is strange, and its surface is like a mirror, but its whole body is a shuttle-shaped polyhedron. The huge multifaceted polyhedron emerged from the deep pit of the seawater. Its size is huge, like an island emerging from the ocean. The fisherman can see it clearly from a distance of more than 10 kilometers. An experienced worker stretched out his thumb and gestured, and came to an astonishing conclusion. This huge and strange multifaceted crystal is actually thousands of meters high. The multifaceted crystal seemed to be slow, but it actually rose quickly, flew to the sky, and then flew to the south. And then, something happened that shocked the fishermen even more. One after another, multifaceted crystals, as if endless, emerged from the deep sea, flew to the sky, and scattered all over the world. On this day, the world turned upside down. Zhang Yi was woken up in his sleep. His sleep quality is average, and the cautious habits he developed after the end of the world would wake him up at the slightest noise. "Brother, get up quickly. Look outside." Lu Karen ran to Zhang Yi's door and knocked on it and shouted. Zhang Yi suddenly opened his eyes, confirmed the person outside, and subconsciously turned his head to look out the window. Outside the huge glass was a world of flying snowflakes. In the distant sky, several huge warships were hanging upside down under the sea. The sky was azure blue, with huge pieces of ice floating on it. Zhang Yi thought his eyes were blurry and rubbed his eyes hard, but when he looked carefully again, he found that it was not blurry eyes or illusions at all. He suddenly lifted the quilt and walked barefoot to the window. Then, his pupils shrank suddenly, because he saw that the whole world in front of him was inverted above the sky. The sky was the land of Tianhai City, and in the distance was the ocean. "What's going on?" Zhang Yi quickly put on his clothes, then opened the door and came outside. Lu Karen was waiting for him here, and said anxiously and excitedly, "Brother, come outside and see." She took Zhang Yi's hand and went outside the shelter. The rest of the family was outside at this time. Around Tianhai Fortress, tens of thousands of people gathered in the ice and snow, looking at the sky. Zhang Yi raised his head, and it was difficult to describe what he saw at this time. He saw the whole world. People living on the ground cannot see things far away clearly due to the existence of obstructions. But now they can see everything as long as they look up. "Mirage?" Zhang Yi murmured. "No, it's not that simple." Yang Xinshin stretched out a finger and pointed to the sky. "Brother, look there." Zhang Yi tilted his neck, and the intelligent system zoomed in the camera, and then he saw the image of Tianhai Fortress above his head. "This is the reflection of the world," Zhang Yi suddenly realized. If you zoom out at this time and look at this ice-blue planet from the vast universe, you'll see that the image of the whole world is projected into the sky, turning it into an elegant and grand picture. This is a miracle. Pope Alexander X of Boeotia stood in the snow, kneeling on the ground devoutly, and praying with his hands clasped together. This is a feat that is impossible for humans to accomplish. Everyone on this planet was shocked by this scene. Zhang Yi lowered his head and said softly, "If there is really someone who can do all this, then there is only one explanation. That is, an underground civilization with a technology level far beyond ours." Just as Zhang Yi was shocked, the reflection of the world suddenly had a flaw. A huge tip pierced the reflection from the sky and slowly descended towards the earth. At the same time, 369 huge polyhedrons on the entire planet were suspended above the heads of humans. Chapter 1767. The Fall of the Capital. In the sky of this planet, huge polyhedrons appeared one after another. They were as slender as shuttles, and their surfaces were as smooth as mirrors. They slowly descended from the sky and quietly suspended in the air. Everyone looked up and stared at this strange scene in amazement. No matter who it was, They would associate the image of the world hanging upside down in the sky with these strange polyhedrons. Zhang Yi's intelligence system kept ringing, and messages from many people told him about the changes in the world. At this time, Zhang Yi just knew that this situation was not only in Tianhai City. It was the whole world. This planet was completely surrounded by 369 huge crystals. The leaders of major organizations in the world held an emergency meeting to discuss how to deal with this matter. The plan to go to Fremons today was temporarily shelved. Meng Yuanjun, Deng Shintong, Zhu Zheng, and others sent messages to Zhang Yi continuously. The leaders of various regions were going to hold a meeting to discuss this emergency. Zhang Yi was too lazy to open the three-dimensional projection and join the meeting directly by voice. He looked at the spectacular scene in front of him, his eyes fixed on the polyhedron hanging high above his head. In fact, he was ready to attack it at any time. Of course, he was also ready to run away at any time. Fortunately, the polyhedron seemed to be suspended above his head, but according to the prompt of the intelligence system, it was still hundreds of kilometers away from Zhang Yi's location. At the beginning of the meeting, all the heads of the major regions who were hastily called over were already arguing. Have you seen that thing? Can anyone tell me what the hell it is? Who knows? I've asked the missile troops to aim at it. Once they find out that it has any intention of attacking, they will immediately launch missiles at it. We observed it. This thing is very strange. There is not even any trace of mechanical biting on it. It looks like a naturally formed hole. Don't be ridiculous. How could this thing be formed naturally? At this time, Li Changgong made a suggestion. It's meaningless for us to argue like headless flies. I think we need to send people to investigate. Xuanwu reminded cautiously. But we don't know where it comes from, and whether the civilization that controls it has good intentions towards us. If we send fighter jets for reconnaissance, it may be considered an act of attack. Then it will be troublesome. Meng Yuanjuan's voice came out. I am also holding a meeting with the World United Organization. At present, we are warning all major forces in the world not to act on their own. Li Changgong said, instead of using fighter jets, can't we use people? Chaos, your ability allows you to approach quickly without being discovered. Why don't you go over and investigate nearby? Zhang Yi's Sinluo Wanxiang can isolate all materials at the level of force, so the means of investigation have no effect on him. Zhang Yi said, since it is a high-level civilization, how can you be sure that the other party can't find me? I am not interested in taking risks. Li Changgong continued, but right now, except for you, no one else can do anything. It's none of my business. Zhang Yi just replied coldly. Before he is sure of the other party's background, he will never act rashly. And he has made a gesture to Zhou Kuer and others, asking them to gather around him. If any accident happens, he will take his people away at the first time. Li Changgong seemed a little angry. Chaos. You are always like this. You have no overall view at all. Well, what's the matter? You bite me. Zhang Yi sneered. You? Li Changgong was very angry, but he also knew that Zhang Yi had never been kidnapped by morality, and it was meaningless to talk to him about the truth. However, Xuanwu also said to Zhang Yi, Hun Dun, the current situation is too sudden. Among us, you are the strongest and your ability is convenient for investigation. Think about it again. Zhang Yi raised his mouth and said disdainfully, Observe? Observe what? If that kind of thing does not show up actively, our various reconnaissance equipment cannot even detect its existence. The technical level that can project the whole world on the sky is far beyond the human beings of today. Its surface is flat as a whole. Unless you break the shell and enter it, you can't do anything after getting close. Can you let me go over and look in the mirrors? The meeting fell into silence. After listening to Zhang Yi's words, they also felt that there was some truth. However, when people face such an incomprehensible scene, they will inevitably panic. What makes them most anxious is that they have no way to take any action. The 369 polyhedrons hanging high in the sky did not move, but just quietly suspended in the air. At this time, Yang Xinxin made a guess. If these polyhedrons are distributed throughout the planet, then they may be some kind of reconnaissance device used to obtain all the information about the surface world. Yang Xinxin's words awakened the dreamer. Since the other party is an advanced civilization, there is naturally no need to play tricks on humans. Then the biggest possibility of projecting the entire world is to obtain intelligence about the surface world. However, we cannot rule out the possibility that these polyhedrons have powerful lethality. Moreover, spying on the surface world may also be a precursor to an attack. Zhang Yi's eyebrows tightened. At this time, the top leaders of countries and organizations around the world were completely blown up. They discussed this matter excitedly. The radicals even wanted to launch missile attacks, while the moderates believed that the other party did not launch an attack and should have come with good intentions. Someone should be sent to communicate. Zhang Yi only felt a dull pain in his head. There must be some connection between Fremon's mechanical civilization and the strange polyhedron in the sky. If I guessed correctly, they probably came from the same civilization. But it's hard to say, because now it seems that there are not a few civilizations in the underground world. This world seems to be shrouded in a layer of fog. Only the human world is in the open. He rubbed his eyebrows and said to everyone, "Everyone enter the fortress. Mu Yan is ready to take everyone into the shadow space." In the following time, the world was in a tense state. Zhang Yi believed that the appearance of this kind of thing would definitely lead to the next move. However, 3 days passed in a flash, and those polyhedrons hanging high in the sky did not make any more moves. Everyone was waiting nervously and anxiously. On the one hand, they were afraid of these huge polyhedrons, fearing that they would do something. But on the other hand, they were like people waiting for execution, fearing that these strange polyhedrons would attack humans one day, and they were always anxious. But there was good news. When the sky changed, the mechanical legions of Fremons that had been destroying the territory of the human kingdom suddenly disappeared. A second possibility emerged in Zhang Yi's mind. Could it be that these polyhedrons in the sky belonged to a more powerful civilization? And their appearance made the previous mechanical civilization afraid and dared not act again? Even these polyhedrons belonged to the creator of this world, and even the heavenly punishment that warned the underground civilization before came from it. After all, they have appeared in the surface world for so long, but there is no sign of being punished by heaven. All kinds of speculations passed repeatedly in Zhang Yi's mind. Another week passed. These polyhedrons seemed to be locked in the sky, and only the whole world reflected by the sky reminded people of their existence. No one dared to attack them, which was a death order from the major forces in the world. People began to get used to their existence, and some even believed that they were created by advanced civilizations that protect world peace. Because after they appeared, the abnormal movements that had occurred in various regions also disappeared briefly. However, Yang Xinxin thought they were too optimistic. "It's just the law of the dark forest," she said lightly. Zhang Yi asked what she meant. Yang Xinxin looked around and took an orange from the fruit plate. "Our planet is like this orange. Humans are microorganisms living on the orange peel. We are under the light, without any cover, and can see clearly. But under the orange peel, there is a wider space. They are wrapped in the orange peel, so no one knows what is inside. Humans have developed civilization for thousands of years, but have we really studied the planet under our feet? The answer is no. There are unknown civilizations underground, and such a huge space can accommodate hundreds of times more life than the surface. Now I think that each civilization is only vaguely aware of the existence of other civilizations. They hide in different areas and at different depths, and no one knows how powerful the other is. Therefore, they must carefully hide their whereabouts on the one hand, and on the other hand, find out the intelligence of other civilizations." She peeled the orange peel, stuffed a piece of orange into Zhang Yi's mouth, and said with a smile, "Do you remember what was recorded on the Lost Stone tablet? There may be some rules in this world that allow creatures to kill continuously in the form of a pyramid and concentrate their life energy on a small number of people at the top. This may refer to individuals, or it may refer to the relationship between civilizations. We must constantly hunt other civilizations to obtain living space." Zhang Yi thought what Yang Xinxin said made a lot of sense. Now, he sits on the top of Tianhai Fortress every day, looking up at the strange polyhedron hanging in the sky. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Originally, this time passed quickly, and no one would feel it. But these 10 days have plunged the whole world into an extremely tangled and complicated state. They seem to have become a part of this world, and together with the upside-down image of the world, they have become the norm in people's lives. Zhang Yi's heart has an impulse every day, that is, as Li Changgong said, to go to the polyhedron to explore it in person. But the cautious habit over the years has forcibly curbed his idea. However, this idea is getting stronger day by day. Zhang Yi understands that if this situation continues, one day he will not be able to control his inner curiosity and the feeling of being shrouded in anxiety all day long, and will take the initiative to explore it. But no matter what humans think, those polyhedrons are still like satellites, hanging in the sky without a sound. Finally, in this silence, someone couldn't stand the loneliness. In Fremons, the underground movement started again. And this time, the scale was even bigger. The sudden attack became more intense. Zhang Yi received a request for help from Fremons, but this time it was not Alexei, but an official from Fremons' diplomatic department. He asked Zhang Yi for help with sincerity and even a little panic in his eyes. "Mr. Chaos, didn't you promise to come to support us, Fremons? Why haven't you set off yet? Now the trouble we are facing is even worse." Zhang Yi wanted to say, "Didn't they stay quiet for a while before? Is the situation very bad?" Zhang Yi asked curiously. The official from the diplomatic department took a deep breath. He looked tired and had obvious dark circles under his eyes. It can be seen that he has not had a good rest recently. Karen City has fallen. Karen City is the capital of the country of Fremons. Its status is equivalent to Xinjiang City in Huashu country. Zhang Yi was stunned when he heard the news. Karen City has fallen? Can't the people of the Temple of the Gods stop them? The official's voice was full of despair. The attack happened too suddenly. Those monsters suddenly invaded Karen City from underground. We couldn't detect them at all, and were caught off guard. Although the adults of the Temple of the Gods fought back in time, the scale of their attack this time was too large, and there were some terrifying humanoid creatures among them, whose strength was even stronger than that of the adults of the Temple of the Gods. We were simply unable to stop them from destroying everything. The man's voice was full of despair. Zhang Yi couldn't imagine the scene of a world power being destroyed overnight. You know, Fremons is different from Huashu. Although they are also federal, the top leaders have always held absolute power. Even the most powerful alien organization, Temple of the Gods, is located in Karen City. Even so, Karen City could not stop the attack of the mechanical civilization. This means that the mechanical civilization underground in Fremons may be more powerful than the Wulwan Empire. No, it can be said with certainty that they have more powerful strength than the Wulwan Empire. If the aliens are not taken into account, the technological level is already a crushing lead. Zhang Yi asked, "What are the casualties on the Pantheon side?" 3 Epsilon-level aliens died in the battle. However, the main gods of the Pantheon successfully fought their way out of the siege and fled to Samaran City with their superiors. We also hope that Your Excellency will consider the many years of friendship between our two countries and our previous support for you in the battle with the Wulwan Empire, and bring troops to help us drive out those terrible underground civilization creatures.